Great. Once again, welcome everybody to Build with Astra DB, a session that we do every month of the Astra DB's Build-A-Thon, where we talk about how you can get started with Astra DB and how easy and simple it is to start building applications using Astra DB as the core. And today we are going to talk about a quick intro to Astra DB and also learn how to build healthcare solutions on top of Astra DB. This workshop and the hackathon is brought to you by AngelHack and DataStax together. Today on the team, we have Cedric and Jack from DataStax, and I'm Harish from AngelHack. And we'll help you understand this hackathon better and the last monthly challenge and make it easier for you. With that, this is the agenda for this session today, where I will give you a quick intro of what the hackathon is all about, what are the prizes and what is the swag, and what you can take away from being a part of this hackathon. And then I'll hand it over to Cedric, who's the Director of Developer Advocacy at DataStax, who will talk about what is Astra DB, what is the power of Astra DB, how to get started with Astra DB, and also a couple of examples of healthcare solutions that you can build on Astra DB. And at the end, we'll jump into Q&A if you have any questions. And throughout the session, if you have any questions, drop them in the Q&A box or the chat. And if you're watching this on YouTube, drop it in the chat and we'll pick them up at the end of the session. With that, let's get started with the intro. Astra DB's Build-A-Thon is a 3-month-long hackathon that has been happening from Feb 21, where we have a unique concept this time around, where there are 3 monthly challenges, which is essentially 3 mini hackathons, and you can be part of all the hackathons or any one of them. And this is the last leg of the hackathon. And all we are asking you to do is use Astra DB as the core of your application and build anything that you want. It can be a machine learning algorithm, it can be a mobile app, it can be a web app, whatever your idea is or whatever problem you are trying to solve it in whatever language you know. All we are asking you to do is have Astra DB as your backend. And how to participate? If you're already on the Zoom call, you've probably registered and have access to the participants guide, which has complete information of how you can be part of this hackathon. And if you're watching this later on YouTube or somewhere else, here is a quick intro of how to get started with the hackathon, right? Go to the website and register. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link is in the description below. Once you register, you will get the access to the participants guide, where you can find the link to join or create an account on Astra DB. It's a simple process. Just create an account on Astra DB and attend one of these workshops that we're doing throughout the hackathon period. And once you attend this workshop, you get qualified to be part of the leaderboard. Being part of the leaderboard essentially means being part of winning a lot of things apart from the hackathon prizes itself, right? When we create hackathons like this, I always envy the advantage participants have with respect to how much you can gain, not just from a monetary value, but also from the learning aspect, right? And this hackathon is also a testament to that, where we are not just saying, okay, learn Astra DB or build on top of Astra DB, but we're also trying to incentivize everything that you do as part of this hackathon and making sure everybody has something to take away from the hackathon. And the last step is form a team. We'll facilitate sessions for you to find team members. One of them is happening on April 29th of this month. And register your team and build through the month and submit your project by the deadline, which is May 15th for this mini hackathon. With that, what are the prizes, right? Every monthly challenge, this being the last month, you will win or stand a chance to win $2,500 if you're placed first, or $1,500 if you're first runner-up, and $1,000 if you're second runner-up. And if you won any of the monthly challenges, you also get a chance to participate in the demo day, which is happening in May 2022, where you again have a chance to win $5,000 if you're placed first, or $3,000 and $2,000 if you're placed runner-up respectively, right? And the demo day is all about what you've already built and refining it and pitching it better and making sure you have a real-world project that is ready to go to actual customers to test out and give you feedback, right? So more information on the demo day through this month. That's not it, right? There are more. As I said, we try to have something or the other for everybody to take away from the hackathon. And if you're one of the top 3 winners, you get $500, which is awarded to top 3 teams participating in all the rounds. This being the last round, of course. And if you've referred your friends, I would urge you to refer your friends and get your friends also to participate in the hackathon, because we also award referrals where you can win $250. And we also have a learning pathway, which is a simple quiz and a bunch of resources about Astra DB and what you can build using Astra DB. And if you're able to complete those learning pathways and finish the quiz, you get a chance to win $50, right? This is in addition to all the prizes, right? These just keep adding up if you keep winning all of these. And then there's more. And on the leaderboard, if you're one of the top 10 hackers, you win an exclusive swag box from Astra DB. And then if you're top 20 hackers listed on the leaderboard from 11 to 30, you have a chance to get the exclusive hoodie. And if you're the top 100, apart from the top 2 that I just mentioned, you get an exclusive Astra DB t-shirt. Right. So with that, we come to the end of the prizes and the swag that you can earn by being part of this hackathon. And the last hackathon is about these 3 challenges, right? The first one being supply chain, right? If you are from supply chain industry or know of problems in the supply chain industry, what we're asking you to do is build solutions that solve some of the problems that occur in the supply chain industry using Astra DB's power, right? And the second one is healthcare. We all know how important healthcare has been through these challenging times, and we are calling for developers to build unique solutions. Again, use Astra DB as the core of whatever you're building. It can be a mobile app, it can be a web app in the healthcare industry. And the last one is, if what you're trying to solve is not fitting into any of the 2 that we mentioned, not a problem. We have a bring your own solution where you can build solution to any problem that you think is valid for the hackathon. Go ahead and build whatever solution you think is better, but make sure you have a problem when you're building the solution. Don't find the problem once you've built the solution. So those are the 3 challenges. So this is open to anybody and everybody to come and participate. It's not restrictive to a specific technology or a specific programming language or an industry. With that, I will move on to the next slide, which is our guest speaker for today is Cedric, who is the Director of Developer Advocacy at DataStax, who will now take over this session and talk about everything Astra DB and also give you some examples of what you can build through the last mini hackathon for Astra DB's Build-A-Thon. Over to you, Cedric.
All right, thank you, Arish. So let me share my screen. Okay, I should share now. So yeah, thank you everyone for having me. So indeed, I'm leading the developer advocacy team at DataStax. But for you all, what you might be interested is I will probably be a judge for this session of the hackathon. All right, so first you need to understand that Astra DB, the product that we are talking right now, is a database as a service in the cloud, and it's based on Apache Cassandra. So Apache Cassandra is databases, and you know, some databases, if you put too many data on the same machine, you cannot store everything on a single machine. You need to scale, you need to add more machine. And this is what Cassandra is meant for. It's a distributed system. So what you want to do is install Cassandra on multiple machines, multiple nodes, and those machines all together is what we call a ring. It's a distributed system. And this database is used when you do have a lot of data. Why? Because in this distributed system, you can add node as much as you want. If you need more capacity, if you need more power, more throughput, more transaction per second, you will add nodes. So famous users of Cassandra are Netflix and Apple. Here you can see Netflix did a benchmark. They add a few nodes up to 300. And as you can see, the request per second is just linear scalability. So that's just great. Netflix, I think they do have like multiple dozens of thousands of nodes, and Apple communicate about almost 200,000 of nodes of Cassandra. So it scales a lot. So in a Cassandra cluster, you can have one, but you can also have multiple rings, and you can install those rings all across the world. and you can read and write from any node, and Cassandra will replicate the data for you. You don't have to do it yourself. It's done by Cassandra. It's Apache. It's open source license. So it's super easy to find and download and use. So a cluster contains multiple rings, and a ring contains multiple nodes. That's the underlying architecture. Okay. In Cassandra, even if it's a NoSQL database, not only SQL database, you will store tables. I don't know if you are aware, but in the NoSQL world, you have multiple family of databases. You have document-oriented DB, like MongoDB, Elasticsearch. You have column-oriented, like Cassandra, the one that you will use this month. Some like these are DynamoDB or HBase, maybe. There are even more NoSQL databases like key value. You might have heard about Redis, or even graph databases. So Cassandra is all about tables, but those tables are not exactly the same as SQL and relational database. If you know relational, you will be at ease with Cassandra, but still there are some differences. And one difference is you want to store a lot of data. So if your table holds billions and billions of rows, you need to find a way to store those rows on multiple nodes. And this is what we call sharding or partitioning. So in your table, it's not your primary key, it's something called a partition key. You pick one column, and based on the value of that column, the data will be distributed among the node. And as you can see, each node is not in charge of one value, is in charge of multiple values. It's like doing a modulo in math. So you divide it by 3, and depending on what you got, you pick one node or the others. Okay? All right. Inside Cassandra, so a cluster, you will find multiple key spaces. Key spaces is logical grouping of your tables. So in one Cassandra instance, multiple key spaces. You can also see key spaces like Oracle schema, or I think MySQL, they call that databases. Okay. Inside a key space, you will find tables. Okay, that's easy. And tables will contain columns. Okay, that's super obvious, right? So it's great. It's powerful. It's scalable. You can add a lot of node in there. And when you want to use Cassandra, you will interact using Cassandra query language, and it's super close from SQL. As you can see here, I do have a query, SQL select star from a table, and just I get something. To connect to Cassandra, you can use the default console. It's called CQL-SH, or you can use any of the Cassandra drivers in the language you want. So it could be Java, Python, C#, C++, Node, Ruby. Yeah, there are a lot of drivers you can pick from to interact with Cassandra. Well, that's great. So what is the issue? Why would you need Astra? Well, as you can see, it's a lot of machine. It's a lot of machine to maintain, to install, to operate, to backup. So the purpose of Astra is say, hey, we know Cassandra is great, but it's not easy to manage. So Astra is Cassandra as a service in the cloud. Okay, long story short, that's it. And I will do a demo in 1 minute. And what I will do is click a button, create a database, and it will create me a Cassandra cluster. And then you, as a developer, you will interact with Cassandra. And the first choice could be to use the drivers. And the healthcare sample I will show you after that will use the drivers. Okay? So inside Astra, you do have Apache Cassandra. I told you that. You also have Apache Pulsar. Pulsar is a queuing system, a bit like Apache Kafka, if you have known that. But for these months, we ask you to use Astra DB, the databases. Okay, so these databases free to use, serverless. It will scale as you need. Zero lock-in. It's Apache, and you can have 20 million query per month for free. So do not worry, no credit card ask, nothing, super easy to sign up, and we will do that together if you want. Okay. So let's see, enough with these couple of slides. Give me some user interface. Okay, so if you go to Astra, and Arish share the link in the chat. So you go there and you can sign in with your email, Google, GitHub, as you like. I like to use GitHub, Google here. And so you log in, and you end up to the dashboard of Astra. And on this dashboard, you will find the database that you have. You can create multiple databases, even on the free plan, no credit card. And here you do have the streaming. So what we want to do here is create a database. So here I create database. I find a name for my database. So here I will use maybe workshops. And a key space. Remember, inside a Cassandra database, you will have multiple key space. The recommended way is to have one key space per application. Okay, because it's kind of isolation of your data, and you want the data to live just for your application. And here I can use something called Spring, Pet Clinic. It will be useful with the healthcare, but you pick what you like. Then you will select a region. And as you can see, you can deploy these Cassandra nodes wherever you like. The free tier, you have to use Google Cloud here and pick, I think, one of the 3 first regions. Here I pick months, US East, and here I just click create databases. And that's it. Astra will create a 3-node cluster for me on Google Cloud. And you don't need to have a Google Cloud account. This is DataStax account, and everything is paid by DataStax. You have nothing to do. Up to 20 million query a month. And when you reach this 20 million query, the database will just go hibernated and say, hey, if you want to use it more these months, please provide a credit card. That's the limit of the free tier. But the next month, hey, your credit is back again, and you can again use 20 million queries. So, for small production usage, you can keep going with the free plan if you wish. So as you can see, the database will take a few minutes to start. It's pending. And that's for sure, because you need to start the 3 nodes, okay? So I will pick one that is already started. So I will pick this one. It's also called workshop. So do not worry, I have 2 databases called workshops, and the second one will show up here. So here, my database is running. As you can see, my database is living on 2 regions. That means there are 2 rings. For the hackathon, you can use only one. And here you have all the tools and utilities you can use with this database. And I've told you about SQL console. And if I click here, then you can see that I do have a SQL console, and I can start using the SQL language. So use Spring Pet Clinic to focus on this particular key space. But if I want to list all the key space available in this database, I just do describe key spaces. And here, as you can see, my database does have multiple key spaces. Okay. And with this SQL console, well, you will start create your table, import your data, and start your app. Because with Cassandra, what you want to do is start with the data model first, just to have this table with the cool data model, something that could scale the proper partitions. And then on this SQL console, you can start executing some command. So here I can create some table. So create table, the one that we have seen together. So let's see where it is. Hey, here create a lot of stuff. Let's do it. and it will create some stuff for you. So it will drop some table, we create the table if they do not exist, and that will create what we call the schema, okay? And with that, you can start inserting some data. So here, you can insert a couple of data, but there you will use your own model to insert some data. And then you can select from this table, okay? So that's cool. So you, as a developer, you create the database, you create the table you need, you insert the data you need. And now it's time to develop. So to develop, remember my slide over here where I do have my drivers. So let's pick those drivers, right? So you go to the Connect tab, and then you see there are a lot of ways to connect to Astra. And so if you want to use the drivers, it's explained here. If you want to use Node.js, Python, Java, C++, C#, here you have a great page to explain you how to use it. Okay, but also we will provide you samples. All the sample codes you might need will be on GitHub in the organization called DataStax Dev. Okay, so I have too many tabs open. That's for me. So on GitHub, DataStax Devs, and let me share that link with everyone here in the chat over here. Here you will find a lot of samples to use Astra with the drivers in multiple languages. So, okay, that's great. And this is what I told you, which is cool with Astra as well. And it will be my last slide, and I will keep going with the demo. On top of these drivers, you can do better. You can do something else, okay? Because in Astra, there is a proxy, a gateway, something it's called Stargate over here in gold. And this guy will expose for use from HTTP API. Okay, so if you are a JavaScript developer, Python developer, and you would like to use HTTP better, and not the drivers, or you like GraphQL, you can use these APIs. How do you do it? Well, if I go back to the user interface, again, too many tabs, let me find back my user interface. Here it is. In the Connect, here the first three are APIs. So here I've clicked GraphQL API. You can see that Astra provides you a GraphQL playground, and you can start using the API using like this. So if I try to use the API just to show you, I will provide a client, and I will use a Spring Pet Clinic. Okay, and I will provide a valid GraphQL query like this. Oh, here, authentication required, of course. Seems like what I did. Yep. Okay. Can I? All right. So it seems like as of now the table is empty, but as long as I do have the system to respond. So I can do select star and using Cassandra query language, but I can also use GraphQL if I want to use GraphQL better. If I like HTTP, here you do have a REST API, and you have access to the Swagger UI, which is a web client to help you interact with your database. So, you create your schema, you import your data, and then you can start shaping your queries and requests right into the user interface. You don't really have to code anything. When you are ready and have the list of requests you need, then you can start coding using either the drivers, or if you want to use the HTTP APIs and you like to code the HTTP client, you can do it. But also we have something called SDKs, Software Development Kit. The HTTP call are wrapped already for you with some Fluent API. So for instance, if I print JavaScript SDK, you do have a library called Astra JS. that you will import in your project. npm install, you declare the library, you define what is your database ID, database region, and as you can see, you will have something called Astra client, and you are able to use the API without having to study exactly what the query look like, how should I shape my HTTP request. So it will probably speed up your development if you use the SDKs and the documentation is there. Okay, so create a database, create the schema, import the data, create the queries, and start coding with what you like. Drivers, API, SDKs. So now let me show you a sample. If I go back here, so as you can see, there are a lot of interfaces in Astra with the APIs and Cassandra. So the sample is the healthcare. So Pet Clinic. Pet Clinic is a famous sample application for the Java developer that like to use Spring. And it was the demo application for years and years and years. So here what I did is, hey, what if I use this Pet Clinic and plug it to Cassandra? So this is what the Pet Clinic look like. It's just a create, read, update, delete application. Very simple. Here you do have the link to the project. The issue I had with this project was, hey, it's based on a relational data model. And in Cassandra, I didn't told you that before, but you will have one query per table. And if you need multiple queries on the same data, you will have multiple tables, even if multiple tables hold the same data. That's the trade-off to be super fast, even if you have billions of records in your database. And there is a methodology to move from relational to no SQL. And the idea is to get the conceptual data model and the requests you will need in your database. And based on that, define the Cassandra tables. You won't have to do it, of course, but it's just showing you that a relational application can be moved to Cassandra, but you should not use the same table. There is no join in Cassandra, so you can really reuse the same data model. You need to do an operation called denormalization. You save together what you want to retrieve together. It's like you are doing the join when you write the data. And when you read, it's already joined. Okay. So let me show you. So here I'm showing some slide, and of course, everyone would be interested in the slide, and that makes sense. So here on GitHub, in the organization I showed to you, let me again share with everyone. Here I'm sharing a README, which explains you step by step how to deploy this application. In this README, you do have the slide, and to be honest, a more complete slide deck than the 3 slides I've shown you, how to build and why we build it. And all the workshops we are doing live every week at DataStax are the same, a big README to explain you step by step what to do. So the first step is always create an Astra instance, because we do not want you to install anything. And guess what? This is what I've already done. I already have my workshop table, so I don't need to do that. Create a workshop with the key space Spring Pet Clinic. I already have it. Then they ask me to create a token, which is the credentials to use Astra. So let me show you. Here you do have also an animation how to do it, but go to your organization. Organization settings, token management, pick the role you want to use. Here, database administrator, generate token, and boom. Now you have a token you can use to connect to Astra. So remember the drivers I told you? As parameter for the drivers, you will need to provide this token. And same for the API, you need to provide the token. And this token is the one I enter just before in the header. Okay. Okay. So I do have my token. Let me copy my token here because I will need it. Okay. So I do have my database. I do have my token. Now I can start coding. I don't want you to install anything. So look at that. Here we do have a big button open in Gitpod. I can right click there and open in a new tab. Okay, in a new window. All right. So Gitpod is VS Code in the cloud. And that's really the full VS Code with all the extension and everything. So it's not really related to this hackathon, but you know, when you don't have the tools on your machine or your machine don't have the power to run all the tools, this is a great tool to get everything you need. And here, it will open my GitHub repository there. So that's pretty cool. So it's opening my GitHub repository. It's doing some operation at load. Okay, I will let him start. And oh, look at that. The first thing is asking me is to provide me a token. So let me paste the token over here. And this script run at load, we initialize Gitpod for Gitpod to connect to my Astra database. Pretty cool, right? Okay, so as you can see, okay, it's doing some work. And here, as you can see, you can reproduce those steps pretty easily by clicking, click. And look at that. When the guy is done, I am in the CQL console. Here, if I describe my key spaces, I am in Astra. This is exactly what you find in Astra. If I go back to Astra and do CQL console in Astra, this is exactly what I will have. So that's, you know, workshops, here CQL console, describe key space. I will have the same. So pretty cool. In this Gitpod, you are also connected to Astra. And then the rest of this workshop was to actually explain you that here you do have a full working Java code to connect to Cassandra using the framework called Spring Data. And what we did is, as every Cassandra application, you need to start with the schema. So here we ask you to create the schema. So use Spring Pet Clinic, create the schema. I create the schema here, provide some values. So I will let him finish. Okay. I provide some values. Okay. Oh, now I do have some values. So if I execute this guy pet type, yeah, it should have those values. Yeah, not sure why it's not showing up. Pet type, pet type. Not sure what. If I'm using the others workshop, maybe because I have two workshop, database code workshop. Never mind, should be there. Keep moving. When you have created your schema, implemented the data, then here we provide you a set of Maven tests to see if the app can also connect to Astra and not only CQLSH. Because here you do have some code using the Spring framework, Spring Data. And Spring Data, for each table, you will create something called a repository. So here you do have a pet entity, which map to the pet table. Okay, the object is equal to the same as the table. And with this, you can just define the method, find all, find by ID, upsert, delete, and the Spring Data framework will do it all for you. When you want to insert a pet in the database, the only thing you will do is create a new object, pet entity, and do pet DAO.upsert pet entity, and it's saved in the database for you. Pretty cool, right? And here, this is what it's explained step by step. We are moving from connecting to the database to Spring Data. So you have your access to the database, and then you expose an API. To expose an API with Spring, you are using something called Spring MVC. So this is Astra DB, the database we created. We are in Gitpod, the ID in the cloud. We set up the drivers to connect to Astra. We created a layer Spring Data, and the Spring Data is used to create an API. So it's a 2-hour session. So I will directly go to let's start the API. So it should be here. Okay, and here I should have access to my API. So here you do have a full working backend in Spring connecting to your database. So here you can see the project is starting. I'm waiting for everything to get ready. Okay, it seems to be ready. So now I can go here and open my API. And the API is exposed using Swagger UI. Again, the same stuff to create a web API. And here you can see, hey, this is my pets. And to get the veterinary specialty type, let's do it. Try it out. Okay, yeah. Add specialty. Oh, I put add, not list. Okay, try it out. Okay, execute. And look at that, your database is returning the values for what you need. So what I'm wondering is, hey, so I should have now these guys in here. Oh, and now it's showing up. Okay, see? All right. Okay, so you do have the Spring Data, you do have the API. What about the web UI? Okay, so the web UI is also there. It's the Angular application. Angular is not directly connected to the database. What we always want to do is create a full stack application, having the backend. The backend here is Spring Boot. But if you want to start the web UI, you can just go here, execute run start, and the web UI will start. I will show it to you, and we will be done with this small demo showing you all the components. Yeah, it's NPM, so I will download half of internet, which is good as well with Gitpod. Is this guy has really very good bandwidth. So even if you need to download a lot of framework, it's not you downloading. That's the Gitpod machine downloading stuff for you. You just have the access web. So it seems like it's open. Let's see. It's loading. Oh yeah, it's Angular. And here, if I want to list the pet type, hey, look at that. So here, the Angular is connected to the backend, connected to Astra. So if I want to add a new pet, I don't know, if I want to adopt a giraffe, okay. Now, if I go to my playground and would like to list the pet, I can also now adopt a giraffe. And if I go back to the SQL console, use Spring Pet Clinic and select from Pet Clinic, Spring Pet Clinic reference list. Here, I should have also my giraffe over here. See, I also have my giraffe. So, long story short, here you do have a sample of the full stack application. When we start with the right way, this is what I should do. So this is a request I do. Based on my request, create the schema, import the data, create my queries, and start coding with that. And with that, I'm done with the presentation and really, here to answer any question on how to use Astra. Back to you, Harish. Thank you.
Great. I think Vincent had one question when you were talking about the SDKs, the JavaScript SDK. He was asking if that was safe to use on the front end or only on the back end.
The JavaScript SDK will need a token. And because it will need a token, you cannot really use it in the front end, because if you do that, the people using your app will have access to the token, and you can reuse your token to do malicious code. So you could do it if you create a token that is read-only. You go to Astra, you create a new token instead of picking database administrator, the one I choose that have all the rights. You pick a read-only, and then it's not a big deal if the user can access the token. The only thing he could do is request your database. I mean, he can still DDoS, so it's not always great, but the best practice is, yes, to have a backend. Even if the backend is, Netlify or Express, in the GitHub organization I give you, you will find multiple samples. And I think if you feel confident with the front end only, for the backend, try Netlify. Netlify is really super easy to get you a backend for just a couple of lines of code.
Awesome. So, Cedric, if I were to summarize your session, right? If I'm someone who's coming from a traditional MySQL background and doesn't have any experience with, let's say, Astra DB or SQL or anything related to NoSQL, what I should do is go to GitHub, pick up a repo, and open it in Gitpod, run it and see how it works.
Yes, exactly. And you can still watch these recordings, see all the steps and the methodology I had. But now, if you want really some code and copy paste some existing demo, you go to the GitHub organization, and there you will find everything starting with workshop _ we try to do workshop _ and the technology that is demonstrated there. You will find some Python samples, TypeScript, JavaScript, Java a lot, to be honest, Java, and Python. So.
Awesome. So if you have any questions while we walk through the rest of the session, which is pretty much some housekeeping announcements, please drop them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll pick them up and Cedric will answer them if they are related to Astra DB. And yeah, I think Cedric already answered Surat's question in the chat. If you have any questions, keep them coming.
Yeah. Keep also, we do have a Discord, so keep coming with the question. Don't get stuck. Even if the question seems very simple, there is no stupid question. Don't get stuck. Always ask question, and we will be happy to give you links and docs and sample code to copy paste, because this is how we learn. So the question was how to list all the database for a user. There is a REST endpoint to do it, part of the DevOps API, and how to invoke the DevOps API. You go to the documentation of Astra and look for DevOps API. But of course, if I can find you a link right now, I will do it.
While you do that, Cedric, I think you mentioned the first step to begin building on top of Astra DB is getting your schema right, uploading the data and loading the data into Astra DB and having that set, and then probably building on top of it.
Exactly.
So
and yeah, totally. So, when you judge, you can judge about the code. You probably, some of you are very advanced developers. You can think about how the application is nice user interface, flashy stuff. But what we also look is, hey, did you build the schema that makes sense for Cassandra? Or did you try to just copy paste a relational database and use the keyword called allow filtering, which basically says skip any Cassandra constraint. And for us, that just, oh no, because now you are using a super powerful database. And because your schema is not exactly what you expect, you might have a slow application.
So a follow-up to that is, let's say I don't know where to look for data sets. Are there any, along with the sample apps on the Astra DB backend, the dashboard, is there a way for me to look at sample data sets also?
Yeah, even inside Astra, I was pretty fast. But once you are signing in Astra, there is a big button on the left called Sample Apps Gallery. And if you go there, you have multiple samples, some from very famous YouTubers. So, like Java Brains, Code Entrepreneur, Code with Anya Kubo, some YouTubers that created apps for us. So there you have the data sets and stuff like that.
Great. Thank you so much, Cedric. I don't see any questions coming up in the chat. So I'll just move on quickly to the next part, which is how you participate in the hackathon. And for everybody watching on YouTube, this is when we say bye. Thank you so much for joining into the live stream. And yes, for all the participants on Zoom, what are the next steps? Once you've registered for